Well, hello again. Previously, as I had mentioned about do you live in the United States and the aspect of there are three geographic uh, definitions put out by the Supreme Court when they had to take on the case. It was called Hooven and Ellison versus Evatt. And there was also the fourth definition regarding the fact that you're living, or that the United States is defined as a corporation. Anyway, to address the other questions or the other points that I had pointed out before, which is that you may think that when you are paying taxes, that it's being collected by a U.S. Treasury and then dispersed according to, any way that they do for the various functions that the government does provide. The other aspect is when you vote, the vote that you cast, going into what kind of balance of power. Well, let's start with the vote being casted into what balance of power. The balance of power would be, it's based on a, excuse me, it's based on the United States Congressional record. There was, in March 17th, 1993, a Mr. James Traficant who had the floor, meaning that he was to stand up and all other legislators were supposed to listen to him. And he had this to say. This is by Representative James Traficant, Jr. of Ohio, addressing the House. He starts off with, and this I quote, "Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise." Okay, that's quoting the first paragraph. So you have to think about that. People sometimes think that we're heading for bankruptcy, that the United States, if sometimes they even give a certain time period, 5 years, 20 years, 10 years, that we're going to be coming into bankruptcy. The fact is, bankruptcy is a legal condition. It's something that you apply for. And then you go to court and it becomes determined. Are you Chapter 7, Chapter 11, or Chapter 13? Well, here, Representative James Traficant said that the United States is in a Chapter 11. All right, so when did that happen? Well, I'll go into the second paragraph. Anyway, he continues, and I quote, "It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9th, 1933, 40 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. HJR, which stands for House Joint Resolution. In other words, between the House of Representatives and the House of Senate, House Joint Resolution number 192, 73rd Congress in session, June 5th of 1933. Was it joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States government officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only." This is shocking. This is something that had been set up since 1933. Since 1933, the United States has been bankrupt. And been paying you've been paying taxes into that, which means that when you have a state of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, there is a form of a trust that is supposed to occur where the money that you then collect, which is the United States Treasury, has to endorse it over to another account in which to be held and dispersed from there. Well, that other account happens to be the Federal Reserve. Anyway, going on to the third paragraph, I'll read that off. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only, under emergency war powers. With the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist/communist order under a new governor for America. This act was instituted and established by transferring and/or placing the office of the Secretary of Treasury to that of the Governor of the International Monetary Fund. This is Public Law 94-564, page 8, section HR 13955 reads in part, the U.S. Secretary of Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States. And for whatever reason, that sentence is followed by a question mark. I consider that unquote from representing the United States. Someday, hopefully, I hope to have some sophistication where I don't have to be sitting in a car, and I would be also enabling a split screen type of a thing where I can show you this, but and also play other videos and that sort of nature. But this is just something that's been set up of a way that actually works against us. Because we're not told in school that the United States is in a state of bankruptcy or what level that it is in. We're not told that this was done from way back in 1933. Well, one thing that we're not also told is that the Federal Reserve, the central bank for the United States, was established in 1913. Before that, there was no central bank, except what happened after the Revolutionary War. There was a bank that was set up that was called the First Bank of the United States. And this was coordinated with a bank that existed in London, England. And it was to pay back for debts apparently considered incurred for the funding of our Revolutionary War, of which supposedly we had won. We conquered the enemy, supposedly. They surrendered, so we're the winners. That's what we're taught in school. But also, it was enabling a setup between the United States and England insofar as to what exists as far as our money is concerned. There's a great deal more of this entire statement that James Traficant had on the floor, and I'd like to pursue that sometime for you in another video. And it really encapsulates more emphasis upon what type of money that we are dealing with here now. Getting back to after the Revolutionary War, they set up the First Bank of the United States, which had a 20-year charter. The 20 years ran out, and then guess what? The sons of the Revolution, happened to be in Congress, the United States representative and the House of Senate, the President of the United States, Vice President, and so forth. The generation that had fought the war was aging and dying, I guess, afterwards. Anyway, the charter was coming due. And what happened is that they decided as a Congress why should we redo this charter? This is something we can do on our own. We don't have to be paying to some elite bank off in Europe. So they let it lapse. Well, they got a letter stating that if you don't renew that charter, I am going to perform a very costly war. Well, in come the War of 1812. The Constitution was ratified in 1791. 20 years later is 1811. 1811 was the end of the charter. And what happened is that the War of 1812 occurred. Now, what I was told, what I was to read, at the King of England wanted to take back from the United States, put us back into a colonial status. And so there was 4 years of war. But that wasn't the case. Because what happened is that it did cost. It costed a great deal. Costed more lives, also money, merchandise lost, contracts being withdrawn, all kinds of things. But what happened is that Congress reconvened in 1816 and decided, okay, let's renew a charter, and it was agreed upon that this charter will be for what's called the Second Bank of the United States. So the war ended, the English pulled out their troops, and the things are going back to business as usual. Now, 20 years later, you had Andrew Jackson, who became president, and he's on record for saying to the European banker that you are a viper, and by the grace of God, I am going to rout you out. Well, 1836, he finally did close that bank, and that was not renewed. And between 1836 and 1913, we didn't have a central bank. So what happened? Well, 1913, we get a bank again. How? These are questions that we should really be pursuing to find out what's going on. Why are we being led into situations that are causing us to have to work harder, work longer, pay more taxes, hardly have enough to feed ourselves or to exist in many ways? And it's through laws that are created, and this, we then blame the legislatures. We blame the president, but I just read to you too. How is it that the president and the Congress has any particular power in this? After all, I just read to you from March 17th, March 17th, 1993, by James Traficant, that in the second paragraph, that the joint resolution to suspend the gold standard, to abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States. Now remember, he said that he started with this second paragraph. It is an established fact the United States government has been dissolved. So, since this is facts, we should be trying to understand who's doing this, and for, of course, what purpose? Well, the purpose was to profit them and to cost to us. At least that's the way I think it is. And there's much more. There's more I want to go into this insofar as to what James Traficant had said, and it's something that everybody should know. This is public record. The U.S. Congress, the Congressional record, is public for us to be able to see, to refer to. Anyway, this is Transient Foreigner. Excuse me. This is Transient Foreigner with Manu LLC, and I'll just say good day.